Keck, and this is a special on-location edition of Bookmark. We are at the Catholic Marketing Network in Chicago, and we're doing a special program on Catholic stores and how vital they are. And an incredibly vital part of that equation is Barb Gaskell. Great to see you, Barb.
Thanks, Doug.
And Barb is the director of the St. Raphael Center in Canton, Ohio, and that's also Living Bread Radio Network as well.
Right.
And a great friend and supporter of Mother Angelica, because you're located in Canton, Ohio, which was Mother's hometown.
Yeah, it's a great joy to have her as one of our hometown gals.
Right. Now, we might be talking about Catholic radio, but today we're talking about something called the Incredible Catholic Store. And there's actually a little card here that was put out. Now, on the days before the actual showcase on the floor, they have other meetings.
Right.
Now, this week they had a meeting that focused specifically on this topic, on the Incredible Catholic Store. Why was that important, and why was that decided to have something like that?
Well, it's kind of a movement in the country to help people remember that there are these outposts all around the country, that these little Catholic stores or big Catholic stores that are there to help people come to know Christ better. Mm-hmm. And of course the internet has had a great impact on Catholic stores, but I think Catholic stores have so many attributes that are not available on the internet.
Now, a lot of the Catholic stores that come here, they tend to kind of be the stores that are not directly associated with a parish. I mean, in your case, you've got a kind of the twin bill because you've got a center, in a sense, that's a Catholic center of information that includes a radio network, etc. out of there, really multimedia, in a lot of ways cutting edge. And some people have even pointed to say, here's an example of a great model that other people maybe can use in marrying Catholic radio, EWTN Catholic Radio, I'd like to promote, obviously, and the local Catholic bookstores. Do you see that as an ongoing connection and something that could help?
Oh, absolutely. And one of the points that I made, I was asked to give a talk about the Incredible Catholic Store, is to ask people, do you have Catholic radio in your area?
Okay.
Because if you're a Catholic store and Catholic radio, there's this synergy of the store and the radio and how we can help each other. And both of us, we're all working to help others come to know Christ. So I think it's very important for people to know, and many of the people raised their hands and said there was Catholic radio in their area, which is a great testament to the work that EWTN has done.
And hopefully there's synergy there between those two.
You know, we want to support Catholic radio, and Catholic radio supports the stores. So there are some stores that are, there's small stores, large stores, some stores that are parish stores or shrine stores.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about the various kinds you have, because a lot of people think, you know, these days it may be that there's a little store inside the parish building itself as opposed to something else that might be downtown or in another part of town, or there used to be a store like that and then the store went away.
Well, and I think each one of those has their own uniqueness, but each one of those, Doug, I think the people there want to minister to anyone that comes in. You know, we talk about...
So you see it as an outreach.
Absolutely.
Then in a day-to-day...
Absolutely.
And that's why it's important in the sense that, not just talking about the internet, obviously, EWTNRC.com, that's important, EWTN, but it doesn't have that tactile, that one-on-one approach, that connection, which is so important in our Catholic spirituality, right?
It's important in I think in our humanness, because we have that relationship. When our customers come in, or someone we don't even know, we go up, we say hello, ask them what we can help them with. Sometimes people are in grief, sometimes people are happy, they're joyful, they just had a grandchild, they just lost a loved one. They may not know what they want, they may not know what they need, but we listen and we're able to meet their need. Here's a book on grief. Here's a book on
I didn't really
what
think
it's
of that.
like, you know, you just lost your mother, I'm so sorry. Here's a book that might help you. Or, oh my gosh, we just had a baby and I'm up at night, and now what? Now we have a book, maybe Greg Popchek book, that we can help. So we listen to them, and we end up, through the years, we have a relationship with our customers that the internet cannot have. We have that one-on-one relationship, and we're able to help those people we also have the availability. We're there 6 days a week,
Right.
you know, 10 hours a day. And when someone comes in, they would walk in there, they're not going to be able to walk into a parish
Right.
because the parish isn't open, but they'll come
Right.
there and try to find what they're looking
Right.
for, and we try to
and
help them.
likewise, if you go to most of the mainstream, quote-unquote, bookstores, they either have a very small Catholic section, or most of the spirituality are the kinds of books many times people shouldn't be reading.
Right.
And one of the good things of going to a Catholic store is that you know you're getting high quality, good material that's been vetted by the store owner.
That's right.
In a sense of knowing that we're giving you something hopefully here that's not going to lead you away from the faith.
That's right.
Or confuse you in related to faith. But that's very, I hadn't really thought about what you said about the idea that someone comes in there and they're searching for something. They want some assistance in a sense, and that you can guide them to find the right materials.
I've been doing this for 28 years, and I have seen so many people grow in their faith through just coming in, looking around.
Right.
We begin a conversation, we begin that relationship, and then we're able, because we have the knowledge of what's on our shelves, and I know that you are being challenged.
Right.
I'll tell you, well, maybe you would like Scott Hahn, or maybe they've never heard of Scott Hahn.
Right.
I tell you, maybe you would like a Scott Hahn book or listen to a Scott Hahn CD.
Right.
And with that, that can be a spark to
Right.
start them on a journey of really deepening their faith in Jesus Christ.
It's an incredible Catholic store, and so many times, and I do a book show, but so you tend to say bookstore, the Catholic bookstore. But it's not just a bookstore, and so I'm assuming there was a purposeful reason why it says Catholic store.
Yeah, and I think, well, there was some debate on that. We talked about calling it evangelization centers, but we want people to know that they can come there, they can buy something,
Right.
they can meet the need, they can get gifts, and there's nothing certainly against the gifts and that, because those are sacramentals that we
Right.
want in our homes.
Right.
And sometimes someone will come in and maybe their children, they're a grandparent and their children are not practicing the faith, but they've
Right.
had a new baby.
Right.
So
There's
here's
an
a way,
opportunity. There's an
exactly,
opportunity,
a
right.
great opportunity to buy something that's a sacramental
Right.
that can go in their house that maybe they wouldn't go out and buy themselves.
Do you find that a lot? I've always thought there's a certain amount of kind of generational jump where there's an opportunity, I think, for a lot of grandparents who maybe have seen their own children kind of walk away from the faith or drift away more than they would have liked. But they maybe are babysitting or taking care of the kids during the day because mom's got to work in the world we live in today or whatever. And there's an opportunity to reinculcate the faith
Absolutely.
with their grandkids, and then have that be transported back into their home by saying, well, at Grandma's house we watch EWTN, or Grandma's house we have the rosary, or we say grace before meals, or she has this little statue that I really like.
That's right, exactly. And we see that more so today. A lot of two homes where two parents are working, and grandma watches the children, and then grandma comes in and buys little books, and we help them for the age level.
Right.
Little books that they read along with their other little books, or their little grandma bag that they take. And so there's lots of grandparents out there that are really trying to help keep that spark of the flame of the faith alive.
Because we know we're always somewhat dumbfounded by how many people never heard of EWTN, or tell us later, why didn't anybody ever tell me about this?
Yeah.
Do you have that same
We
experience?
do, and I think it's all across the board. There are people that come in that have supported us for 28 years, and there's people that just come in and say, wow, we didn't even know you were here. Look at all that you have. It's amazing, but usually if people come, unless they're a visitor, they come back. Because, as you had said before we went on the air, when you go into a store like that, usually there's a peace.
Right.
There's a peace, and we play music, we play religious music, and there's a peace. People will say to us, gosh, I could stay in here all day. And we say, you're welcome.
Right. Because we live in such a noisy world. To go to a place like a Catholic bookstore or a Catholic store, there is a sense of that separation.
Well, I have a cute story too. There's a couple young couples that have very young children, and there's two couples I can think of. And when they have date night, they come to our bookstore.
Really? Okay.
And now they go out then and
Right,
they have
right.
dinner and then they may go see a movie. But they'll come for an hour and walk around the store, maybe buy a couple things, listen to the music, and they'll say, you know, it's just so nice to come here. And that just touches my heart. Here's two young people, you know, that have a couple children, and they want to come and spend their time in a Catholic store.
Right.
How amazing is that?
Right.
It's just exciting.
Right, and also in Canton where you are, one of the little devices here, your little card is about the Mother Angelica Tour, and I can tell you, we're not talking about Hanceville. We want you to come to Hanceville in the Shrine and come see the network. But if you're in Canton, Ohio, where Mother was born and raised, there's something called the Mother Angelica Tour, which I had the privilege with many of us at EWTN when we had a family celebration in Canton a number of years ago to go on. Why don't you tell us a little bit? It's motherangelicatour.com is the website. And why don't you tell us what that entails?
Well, Doug, you know what, as we said, Mother was born and raised in Canton, and so we take folks to the important places in her life. St. Anthony's Parish, where she was baptized and actually where she got her call for vocation. We take them to the Rhoda Wise Shrine, the local mystic.
And who was Rhoda Wise? Tell our audience who Rhoda Wise was.
Rhoda Wise was actually a Protestant woman who had a terrible tumor on her stomach, on her abdomen. She was actually healed of that through our Lord. And our Lord appeared to her, and also St. Teresa appeared to her a number of times. She was sent home to die, and then our Lord healed her. And she was a local mystic. She would receive the stigmata. This was in the 40s, 30s and 40s. She would.
And the house is still there. So
it's still there, so we're able to go there, take the people there, and see this wonderful little place where Mother Angelica was healed when she was a teenager. And so that's one of the high points, I would say, of our tour. Also, I'm happy to tell you that the cause for Rhoda Wise has been opened. And that was last year in October. There was an opening mass, and just this week the beatification cards are out now for praying for her beatification, because she is servant of God, Rhoda Wise.
So if someone wanted to help support that, what would they do?
There's rhodawise.com. Find out about all the information about Rhoda Wise. And then motherangelicatour.com. So we take them to, of course, that's one of the high points. We take them to the Rhoda Wise Shrine. In the afternoon, we go to the Rhoda Wise grave. And we also go to the Sancta Clara Monastery, which you have been to, where Mother, she entered in Cleveland, but a year later she came to Sancta Clara. And then she spent about 17 years there at Sancta Clara. And that's where she made that famous bargain with God.
And we also went to, I think, her parish when she was a kid.
That's right, St. Anthony's, So it's really kind of growing, the whole idea of the Mother Angelica Tour, and people coming in from out of the area. We do a local tour once a month. So that anybody within a driving time could come and get on a bus and do that.
That's right. That
it's
was
a
very nice.
Full day. We feed them and have mass and rosary, and it's a wonderful day. We've had a really great response to it. We have them each once a month from May to October, and then other tours as people, come in from far away. Or bring their own buses.
And that's the Mother Angelica Tour. It's all together, one word.com. They can find out more about that. So just before we go, Barb, we're going to talk some more with someone else right after this about a Catholic bookstore owner. But what would your closing words be about Catholic stores?
Well, I really want to encourage people, if you want to learn about the faith and you want to talk to someone, I would encourage you to go to a Catholic store, because those people have given their life to help others come to know Christ. And they will direct you to books or videos or audios or a parish that will help you. And I think it's so important that we support our local stores so that we can be there to minister, to be the hands and feet of Christ, one-on-one every day.
Thank you, Barb Gaskell. Thank you for being a great friend of EWTN and Mother Angelica all these years. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're here at the Catholic Marketing Network in Chicago. I'm Doug Keck, talking about the incredible Catholic store. And I'm joined now by one of those people who runs one of those incredible stores. This one happens to be in Lincoln and in Omaha. You've got two, and it's Tim Brox, Gloria Deo, Know, Love, Celebrate, and Defend the Faith. So
that's right.
Tim Brox was obviously born a wonderful Catholic, raised in a wonderful family, whose dream was always to own a Catholic store.
And make millions.
And make millions of dollars. No, right?
No.
So tell us who you really are.
Yeah, my name's Tim Brox. I'm a lifelong Lincolnite from Nebraska. And, you know, I grew up sort of a lukewarm Methodist. My parents had me baptized, and I went to church as a youngster, but by junior high and high school, it kind of, you know, we'd just go in every once in a while. And I attended a Methodist college that's in Lincoln and graduated with an English degree, but kind of through that whole experience, I had a lot of life changes, and I really felt the Lord speaking to my heart. And when I started investigating, I realized that the Catholic Church had the richness of the faith and the fullness of the faith. And so I became a confirmed member of the church in 1993. Okay. And shortly after that, I discovered that there was going to be a store that was in Lincoln. Okay. Or that was going to be opening in Lincoln. Okay. And so I contacted the owner. Right. And one thing kind of led to another, so she hired me right on the spot before we ever even opened the store. Right. And so we opened in 1993 in Lincoln. Okay. And grew and expanded several times. Right. And my wife and I and another couple bought the business back in 1998. So our business is going on 25 years now. So. Okay, so let me ask you, when you got involved with that, was that something what did you plan on doing with your life before you ended up working at a Catholic store? I had been working in advertising for a medical research firm in Lincoln, and found myself unemployed in the early 90s, right after I graduated from college, and just a whole series of providential events that the Lord put me together with this woman who had founded our store. And I didn't really have...
Why did she decide to open a Catholic store?
She really felt that there was a need in our community. There was, you know, there was a store that was in Omaha at the time. There was a store in Lincoln, but it honestly was a store that had kind of been abandoned by its owners. They didn't seem to be caring an awful lot about it at that time. You may recall there was a lot of new growth in the publishing world, and Pope John Paul's influence was renewal
even EWTN and Mother Angelica, a lot of those things.
You know, there were very much wrapped up in that, and Joanne, the founder, decided that there was a need for it in Lincoln, and so she opened up a small store. It was about 1,300 square feet, which by most store standards is a decent sized store, and we happily started building a nice base of customers, and just kept growing and expanding. So,
well, this is something you talk about as a business. You know, sometimes when people get into these kind of things, they say, well, it's an apostolate or it's a ministry. And it can be that, but many times maybe people don't understand there is an aspect to it that is like every other job or any other business, in that it has to be able to sustain itself, right?
And we've always believed that, you know, we need to use sound business principles that we have from the secular world that can be applied to our marketplace. But that doesn't mean that we are purely in it for a profit motive. I mean, I don't think anybody in this hall and anybody who's ever been in the Catholic marketplace does it because they want to make $1 million. You know, the Lord puts it on your heart that this is something that He's calling you to, and it does wind up being very much a ministry. People come to us sort of in very unique situations that they aren't quite ready to sit down and talk to a priest or a religious about things going on in their life, and yet they will certainly come in and you know, they perceive that a bookstore is a non-confrontational and an educational place that they can come to learn about what's going on in the faith. Right,
and obviously there's people all around here who are Catholic store owners that we can hear in the background and see in the background here. This is where they come and they meet. Let me ask you with that, so someone gets into this kind of thing as a business and does this, and now you've expanded. Is that because there's been an increased interest, or did you just pick up a store that maybe somebody else had that was failing?
No, we had an opportunity in the late 90s. We had expanded the store a couple times, And we started noticing that we had a good number of people that were driving down from Omaha to Lincoln. Now, it's only about an hour drive time.
Okay.
And because Lincoln is the capital city, we would always have people that would come to town for example, state basketball tournament for the boys, the girls. But we noticed that there were a large number of people that were coming down from Omaha, and they would tell us, I came for no other reason than to shop at your store. And we exhibited at a couple conferences in Omaha.
So let me ask you a question about that.
Yeah.
So, because somebody would say, obviously EWTN has its own online service, etc., but we're talking about the importance of it in the community. Why was it important for them to drive down to go to the store?
Well, of course, at the time, you remember this is in the late 90s. We didn't have all of the e-commerce and stuff. Right. So, you know, people's access, they felt in the Omaha market that they weren't having their needs met, and so they were driving the 60 miles to come to us. And so it was kind of a no-brainer, if you will, for us to think about opening a store in Omaha.
Gotcha.
Which we did shortly after the 9/11 attacks, and so that was very interesting.
Did that have an impact, you think, at least for a period of time?
For a period of time, certainly. I mean, it you know, drove a renewal of grounding in the faith and searching for answers.
Right. It's amazing how tough times brings that about. And when things get a little better, people kind of forget. So when people come into your store, do you have any stories or anything that struck you of where one day something happened or somebody came in and bought that made you say, or your wife say to yourself, I guess this is why we were asked, in a sense, to do this?
Very early on, within literally 2 weeks after we opened, I had a gentleman who at the time, I didn't realize that he's a young father, but he was looking for an item and sort of settled upon a rosary that's for an infant, meant more or less for a baptism.
Right.
And as I was showing him this item, he started tearing up and remarked that it was for a child, that they had just had a miscarriage.
Oh.
And so he was shopping for something to put in with the remains of the child for the burial.
Sure.
And I've since become very good friends with the family, and in fact have employed 2 of their daughters.
Oh, really?
So, but it was a lesson for me very early on. Here I was, a 23, 24-year-old young man, not married, not even dating really at that point in my life. And to realize that this is going to be a ministry, you know, that we will be touching the lives of people and helping them to have an encounter with Jesus Christ in ways that I never even fathomed when I got into it. I'm very much a tool in God's hands, a pencil in God's hands, as Mother Teresa said, and feel that, you know, we'll be there as long as we can and keep the door open and make enough money to keep the door open so that people can continue to have those encounters with Jesus. And
do you ever run into a situation now? Obviously, you've had good bishops in Lincoln, you know, very supportive, I'm sure, of those as well. That you run into a situation where there's a concern that the parish feels like, you know, we've got a bookstore or we've got something at the parish, and you're competing with the parish. Has that ever been an issue?
Not really. You know, the rising tide lifts all boats.
Okay.
There's a couple parishes in our local area that have had little counters and gift shops, and we don't really view that as a competitive thing. I mean, business is business, and the reality is that customers can buy from anybody they choose from.
Right.
You know, we feel that if we provide them with really great products and really great customer experience and give them something that you know, a refuge from the world, so to speak. Right. That they come into our. I mean, people remark on that all the time.
I were talking about earlier.
People
will
come in and just say, "I just love coming here because it's so peaceful, and it's, you know, just to admire the beautiful pieces of artwork and statuary that people can put in their homes and things like that." People really do find it.
So what would you say to another young couple, like maybe you were at some point with you and your wife, and you're thinking, or maybe an older couple who's maybe on towards the back end of things, thinking in terms of doing something? I would think they need to understand that it's not just an avocation you do on the side and somehow it's just going to wonderfully work, that it takes a lot of work like everything else worth doing. So what would you say to somebody who was thinking about it? What would your advice be to them?
I think the biggest thing is to have a sound business business plan in place, treat it like a business. it is primarily a ministry, yes,
right,
but it has to be run like a business. Otherwise, you're going to fall flat on your face,
right,
and you're going to have to close within a short period of time.
Right, and a lot of times,
and there have been a lot of
yeah,
people down through the years. I've been coming to this trade show now for 21 years,
right,
and as much as I hate to say it, is there are a lot of retail stores that you know, somebody feels like the Lord is calling them to do it, and they
right,
kind of just open it up. They don't research it. They don't
right,
know who the suppliers are. They don't know.
Right.
They don't even know how to retail in their stores.
Right.
And so, you know, I've run across situations where people think that they can have, you know, kind of funny store hours where they'll only be open like 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day or things like that. It's retail. We have to think
right,
like the customer.
Right.
We have to make it convenient for people
right,
who want to shop, and sometimes that means that you have to be open on a Saturday when, you know,
right,
for us in Nebraska, that
right,
means there's home football games going
right,
on,
sure,
and
of course,
have to make those sacrifices. So
right. No, exactly. And I think that's a good point, because many people feel moved to do things without realizing that there's an aspect to it
right,
that still has to be undergirded by the everyday realities
right,
of living in this material world.
And you know, clearly it helps to have people that are you know, involved in the business, whether it be the owners or the volunteers, right, or if they have employees who really can come to an event like this and shop, right, and sort of discern what people will be attracted to.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Tim Brox, Gloria Deo in Lincoln and in Omaha. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Doug.
Best to your wife and your family.
Thank you.